From 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, it's always my honor to be on Radio Row when the Hall of Famers show up. You can see their gold jackets all across, in this case, the Georgia World Congress Center, but whatever convention center or space we're in, you can see them, you watch them in their reunions with one another, how excited they are to have a chance to speak face to face when very often they will go a year or more without seeing each other, without being in the same place. And it's also a privilege to speak to NFL veterans from previous eras. And so my next guest on Radio Row, Kenny Houston, was there as a partnership with Southern Recipe Pork Rinds to benefit Gridiron Greats, an organization that is spearheaded by Mike Ditka. And Mr. Houston spent 14 seasons in the NFL. He started back in the late 60s and finally retired in 1980. 14 seasons, a dozen Pro Bowls, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1986. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence from Radio Row in Atlanta. He was sporting that gold jacket, and he looked dapper.
Super Bowl 53, the Washington Redskins.
What is Hall of Fame weekend like? Whether yours or whether others you've attended, what is it like to be part of that particular community, a very select few?
Well, it's unlike anything that I could describe. I'm in awe. I've been there now, since '86. And every year I go back, it's exciting. You lose a few guys, and that's the hard part about it. But just to know that you're a Hall of Famer, it kind of gives you bragging rights if you want to look at it like that. But you know how hard it is and how many people deserve it, And once they give it to you, they can't take it from you.
That's right.
You're done.
It's yours, and you are wearing the Hall of Fame ring. Thank you for letting me hold it there for a second. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you for flashing it in here because you earned that.
I'm really not aware of that I'm flashing. Am I flashing?
Absolutely. All of that you've earned. Right. He's a former defensive back for the Houston Oilers and the Washington Redskins. Kenny Houston is with us here on Radio Row. It's After Hours on CBS Sports Radio. Your story is incredible. As I was reading about you today, so 14 NFL seasons, 12 of which were Pro Bowls, but you were drafted in the 9th round. And you end up in the Hall of Fame. When you look back at your career, sir, how did you do that? What do you feel like were the keys to turning your career into a huge success?
If you're a player, you're never supposed to think, or you really never have a good game. It's always something to work on. So I was always working on my future, and I didn't put myself as the Hall of Famer. I never really made the team. It was something that I always had to do. I never wanted to leave the field, and ended up playing like 190 games and enjoyed it. And Hall of Fame never came up. Making the team came up because you had to get your contract, but it was something that I didn't set out to do. It was something I did.
You were a starter by game 3 of your rookie year.
Yes.
Even as a 9th round draft pick. Did you feel like somewhat of an underdog in that role?
I didn't know what I was doing because I went from offensive center to middle linebacker, and I got in the game in Houston, and I would have had the longest interception return in the history of the Houston Oilers, maybe the league. If I had finished the run, it would have been 107 yards.
Wow.
I ran out of bounds. I was tired. I just ran out of bounds. And I think about that all the time. On purpose? I was tired.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I bet you got some grief for that.
They were excited about, we were playing Kansas City. They were excited about me, intercepting, running back. What happened when I intercepted, some guys say down and some guys say run it. So I ended up stepping out of the end zone. I probably had covered 20 yards, in the end zone. And then I ran out and I got tired and I stepped out of bounds.
9 touchdowns by way of the interception, 149 career interceptions.
49.
149.
No, 49.
Oh, look what's on the page. Oh, it's a typo. You should have just let me keep that. Yeah. 149 for Mr. Houston. Okay, so 49. Wow. I was going to say, that's what I wrote down on my page, and I thought maybe I was really wrong. Okay, so what's it like as a defensive player to score a touchdown?
I scored mine early, the first 5 years, so I thought that's what you did. I was a strong safety. I had pretty good speed, and I could cover an out. And so when they threw that, I felt like it was my ball. And I had this thing in my mind about how I'm supposed to run it back for a touchdown, with the Houston. And I got to the Redskins, and they had a planned return, and I never ran back another one. Never ran back another one.
You just don't take those moments for granted.
Well, yeah, what happened, all the guys go to the sideline. I'm supposed to go to the sideline. You got 22 people over there. In Houston, I was in the middle of the field operating against 3 or 4 guys, so it's a mistake.
Hall of Fame defensive back Kenny Houston with us here after hours, CBS Sports Radio from the 1986 class. When you look at the game today, where are the biggest changes in modern football from when you played a couple of decades ago?
Hitting. Back then, you didn't have to pick where you could hit a guy. You just hit him, period, okay? And you didn't have to let him off the line of scrimmage. So really the game has been designed, in my opinion, for more scoring. I'm not saying the quality of players are better because a receiver had to clear the line of scrimmage first, and then he had to catch the ball, then he had to escape the tackle. Quarterback had to get off the line of scrimmage, duck for his life, and then pick up his knees and maybe get off the throw, So it's just a design of the game, and if you don't really know football like it was, then you can't understand it, so you want it like it is because there's a lot of high scoring, a lot of guys high-fiving, jumping up out of bounds, tapping toes and stuff like that.
Did you have a touchdown celebration for your interceptions?
They would run you up in the stands if you had a celebration.
So tell me this, any talk ever when you played about concussions, head injuries, getting your bell rung, so to speak, blacking out, any of that, was that ever a conversation?
Every game. But they had this smelling salt.
Oh, gosh.
It wasn't a conversation. It was just something, can you see these 5 fingers, Go, yeah.
He's holding up 2, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
You knew you were knocked out. And you knew you'd be okay once you snapped your head back, and so they put you back into the game. And there was never a thought of concussion. If it is, we didn't know anything about it. We may be the end result of what concussions are or were, and that's unique and interesting. And simply because at my age right now, I see a lot of guys that have had dementia, Alzheimer's, okay? And so the game needs to be safe in that respect, but how do you make it safe and still keep it football? That's the big question.
Has the NFL done a good job balancing the two?
I think they have, and they're going to get better at it. But the question that I have is, how do you hit a guy? I think that they're going to have to come down the hidden zone. If your head go in that zone, you can be hit. If you want to just run straight up, run straight up. They're not going to hit you in the head. But if you're ducking and the guy's hitting, there's no way you can avoid it.
Does it make you chuckle ever when you see the protections for quarterbacks?
The holding.
That wasn't a loaded question. I was being absolutely serious.
It's the first thing they do is grab. That's the first thing they do. And they say then if you don't turn them sideways, I think I could be an offensive tackle there. I really do. Just reach out there and grab him and kick him in the shin. About your business.
Secrets to defense in the NFL with Hall of Famer Kenny Houston. Why is it important for you to work with Gridiron greats?
Because first of all, it's the history of the game, and you have guys that are really hurting. Guys didn't make a lot of money at all, and now that they've gotten older, you experience the being old. You experience going to the hospital. You experience paying $8 for an aspirin, and you don't have any money at all. You experience being told that, you can't go to this doctor because you don't have that insurance. And so it's really sad, and there's so much pride involved, And you look at a guy like Mike Dicker, he's been fighting this a long time. Mike is, he was ahead of the game in terms of getting people money, incomes, and helping with doctor visits. The league is picked up to some degree, but it shouldn't be settled until all players are taken care of.
Can I ask how you are in terms of your health, and now here you are in your 70s?
Well, I had a couple of blood clots. I didn't know what it was, passed out, and was diagnosed with some form of leukemia, but they're still looking at it. I just hope they look at it about 10 more years. So they try to do something.
And yet smiling away you are.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like you have a choice when you get old. You can say he fought a good fight and he out of here. Or you can say, I'm living and I'm doing okay and I expect certain things to happen. I don't expect to feel perfect. Well, I'm at the point now where I don't expect to feel perfect. So every day I get up, and as long as my heart doesn't do anything crazy, I can make it.
Mr. Houston, I feel like I have to call you Mr. Houston.
You call me Kenny.
You represent your Hall of Fame and your profession very well, sir.
Thank you
for
very
a
much.
couple of minutes.
And listen, congratulations on the job you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to know about you guys too.
Longtime NFL tight end Reggie Kelly, who is a guy that really, as you could see them together on Radio Row, idolizes Houston and looks up to him and really wants to work with him and other gridiron greats to make sure that his predecessors and the old timers in the NFL are taken care of. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I got a picture with both Reggie and Kenny. And also on our Facebook page, we got a montage of photos. Thanks so much for tuning in to CBS Sports Radio.
Super Bowl 53, the Atlanta Falcons.
So from Kenny Houston, another member of this organization that's working with Gridiron Greats is Reggie Kelly, longtime NFL tight end. I've heard you are a great talker. Do you enjoy talking about those days in the NFL now?
Well, of course. I mean, they make for great memories. And, you get an opportunity, even coming down to all these festivities, you get a chance to meet some of your old teammates, some of your old coaches, man, some of the guys that you went against back in the day. Sometimes we add on to the story just a little bit to make it sound better.
No one's going to know.
No one's going to know. Trust me.
So you were drafted in the second round by the Falcons. Where do you live now? Are you still here?
So we're still here in Atlanta. So drafted by the Falcons in 99, the second round, played 4 years here. Mm-hmm. Then went off to Cincinnati, played 8 years, then came right back for my final year. That's why you can never burn bridges. You can never burn bridges.
Amen, brother. I hear that. So what is it like to have the Super Bowl in your city then?
Well, I wish we were playing in the Super Bowl, but at least the Saints are not playing in the Super Bowl, I must say. Now, hey,
unabashedly grinning. You should see the smile on Reggie's face.
I'm from ear to ear, smiling from ear to ear. I do feel bad over the call, but I don't feel that bad.
Something that jumped out at me as I was looking at your stats and kind of reading about your career, you never missed more than 4 games in a season. Yes. And for someone who played at a physical position like you, tight end, on the line, lots of contact, how did you do that? How did you stay healthy and stay active for as long as you did?
Well, number one, it was a blessing because a lot of guys, go through a continual season always getting hurt because the game is a trick. It's a train wreck. Each and every game, each and every play, it's a train wreck. But I did, work extremely hard during the off season. My eating regimen was second to none. I made sure I ate healthy foods that would fuel my body. Did chiropractic work, deep tissue massage therapy, the right type of supplementation, and a lot of stretching. And so that helped prevent a lot of injuries. Even to this day, now that I'm finished with football, my body feels absolutely great. I still get the chiropractic work. I still stretch. I still get the deep tissue massages, and those things help quite well. And milk does a body good, too.
I'm a huge milk drinker.
You better
Easily go through a gallon every 4 to 5 days.
With some cookies? Is chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal? Which one?
I know I'm a chocolate chip girl, but I've never turned down a cookie unless it has raisins. You
don't do raisins? I love the oatmeal raisins. And it's healthy because it has oatmeal in it.
And raisins, yes, of course. Now, you mentioned the food, and you came bearing gifts, which is cool. I'm glad you set this up for me. This is Kyvan sweet barbecue sauce, and I know that you are involved with Kyvan.
Yes.
What is the brand all about?
Well, my wife and I, when I was playing, I love giving back to the community, love helping kids out. So the kids in my hometown who exemplified great academic excellence, we gave them free football camps, free NFL gear. I invited some of my NFL peers to come down and help me out. But after the football camp, and for that matter, after any event in Mississippi, you're going to have some good food. Trust me. And so my family cooked for all the volunteers, and my teammates said, man, you guys need to do something with your family recipes.
Really?
I was a little hesitant. Really didn't want to do it because I knew nothing about the food industry. I knew football. I played football. I know how to play football. But when it comes to food, I didn't know how to start a business. But they're pretty adamant about it. I took their advice. Within 3 months of being in business, I pitched the idea to Walmart, and they took us in. So I pretty much knew I had a winner on my hands. And that's the best tidbit of advice my teammates ever gave me. Football, they never gave me any good advice. But food, they did.
Reggie Kelly, former NFL tight end, with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. So a couple of things I want to ask you about that are totally not football. You mentioned the food, and you also had a book out that was about being prepared and using your NFL experience to reach your limitless potential.
Oh, I like it.
I did my research.
You did your research.
What did that mean to you?
Well, I think in life, we tend to learn a lot of lessons regardless of what we go through in life. And sure, you can learn some lessons from the good things, but we tend to learn our greatest life lessons through the bad things that happen to us in life. And a lot of times we don't want to go through those bad things, but let's be honest, those things stretch us. It helps us grow as a person, help us get the very best out of each and every one of our potentials. So I want to tell people that don't shy away from tough times. Tough times is going to get you prepared for the next phase of your life. And ultimately, I believe that it'll get us all prepared to go to heaven. And so I want to stress the importance of working hard, never giving up, especially when you have dreams that don't quite start off the way you want them to start off. But if you keep fighting for them, dreams do come a reality. I'm just a small-town country boy. And if you want to use anybody as an example, you can definitely use me.
Failure very often builds the character that we need to get through as you talk about the difficult times. I say it like this: life generally sucks a good portion of the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the character, you're going to stop where you are, and that's where your story is going to end. But if you know how to fight through the difficult times, then generally it prepares you for the next one.
Well, did I write the book or did you write it?
We're just on the same page, Reggie.
I
like it.
I love it.
In 2007, you received the Ed Block Courage Award, and I saw some of your quotes that meant a lot to you, especially coming from the NFL community. What does that mean to you now as you look back on your career and you kind of, you know the experience, you know everything that you went through?
I've always wanted to play in the NFL, and I've always been a guy that never complained, regardless of where the coaches told me to play, the job description that they had for me, because it's a true blessing for me to do something that I've always dreamed of doing. I used to sleep, with my football at nighttime. Some kids slept with teddy bears. My football was my teddy bear.
Awesome.
My pigskin was my teddy bear, so to speak. And so when I actually made it to the NFL and my teammates respected me for the player that I was, they respected me because of my character, my integrity. They knew they could always depend on me. If I was injured, they knew I would still fight for them. And so I suffered an injury and came back stronger, and my teammates voted me that year as the Ed Block Courage Award winner, and that meant the world to me, believe it or not. Sure, I want to win a Super Bowl. Every player wants to win a Super Bowl. But I also want to be remembered as a guy that really cared for his team, that would be willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes for his teammates. And for them to vote me to do that, it was tremendous. Then I had the opportunity to go to Baltimore and accept the award, and then opportunity to give back to some kids who come from abused homes, to encourage them again, knowing that regardless of what you go through, you can still accomplish more. It's not how you start, but it's how you finish.
Gridiron Greats is an amazing organization. The game has changed so much. The money wasn't there years ago, eras ago. We just spoke to Kenny Houston, and he played back in the 70s, right? The game is completely different. Why is it important for you to work with them?
Well, Kenny is a Hall of Famer, right? A Hall of Famer. He told me when he first came into the NFL, and he may have told you guys this as well, he told me his signing bonus, I think, was $14,000. You talk about a Hall of Famer. One of the guys who helped build this league, a guy that helped transform the league to what it is today. One of the pioneers of the NFL. And to see them get paid that type of money, and though Kenny has been doing really well with the money that he's received and the money that he's earned, a lot of players aren't. Players that played so long ago, they don't get the same pension packages that we see current players getting. They don't get the same health benefits and definitely not the same type of salaries. And so it's important for an organization, a foundation like Gridiron Grace to step into the gap and not to give these players a handout, because most players don't want a handout. They just want a hand up. And so that's what Gridiron Grace is doing, paying for medical expenses, even mental evaluations. We know that the game of football is torturous on your head, on your brain. And they pay for mental evaluations, utility bills, even small stuff like grocery bills. And they help over 100 families a year. That is absolutely tremendous. So who wouldn't get behind such a great cause? I'm grateful to be here with Ken Houston, Billy White Shoes Johnson. He can do the funky chicken,
awesome.
Baby.
Yeah, no, he's so great. I talked to him last year on Radio Row.
He's an outstanding. He's a mentor of mine. When I first got in the league, he taught me how to be a pro on and off the field. And so it's my duty. It's my duty to give back and make the game better than the way that I found it. And so, yes, it's an honor for me to be involved with Gridiron Grace and Rudolph Foods for donating a percentage of sales back to Gridiron Grace.
Southern recipe pork rinds.
Yes, don't you love them? I grew up eating them, man. It's so delicious. So delicious.
Longtime NFL tight end Reggie Kelly is with us here on Radio Row. It's After Hours on CBS Sports Radio. I always enjoy asking former players this question. I did ask Mr. Houston, but he has the defensive side of the ball, so I'm going to ask you, and you didn't retire that long ago. You retired in 2011, but what's the biggest change in the game from when you started in 99 to today?
It's the rules. The rules are really the biggest thing that's changed this game, in my opinion. And a lot of times, we look at the players and we look at officials, especially like a call like we received or none call from the Saints game and Saints and Rams game.
Try not to smile.
From ear to ear, everybody. If you guys could see me, you would think I was an evil, evil man.
You are dressed in all black. I'm just teasing.
But, I mean, when you think about the way that the rules have changed, it's hard for players to almost adapt to it. It's really extremely hard. When you got a running back coming down here and a defensive guy has to tackle him a certain way, it's extremely hard even for officials to make the right calls as well. And so that's when you get examples of that particular Rams and Saints game. So I think the calls, the different rules that they've installed into the game has really slowed the game down a little bit, and rightfully so. I mean, I'll be honest to tell you, I was an offensive player, but it is geared toward the offensive players, and we all know that. And it's really tough on defensive players, especially trying to make big-time hits, trying to secure their jobs.
Sure.
And if they make a wrong hit, and if you got to hesitate for 1 second trying to make a play, that's the difference in you getting a tackle or a guy scoring a touchdown and winning the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think the rules really have slowed the game down. I'm all for rules, but maybe if we can adjust them a little bit more to keep the game fast and keep it exciting.
And a level playing field.
Yes, exactly.
Feels like it's tilted toward the offense.
Well, they said defense wins championships, but offense sells tickets, and we know it's all about that dollar.
You know the strategy. Thank you so much for the barbecue sauce. Kyvan Foods, sweet barbecue sauce. I can't wait to try it. This is from Mississippi.
Mississippi,
Love
you
it.
better believe that's how we get down. I can't come and do an interview from a young lady like yourself, a distinguished young lady,
Thank you.
without coming in bearing gifts.
Well, I appreciate that. And Reggie, you've lived up to the billing. Great talker. Probably the best one I've encountered on Radio Row. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes.
I hope that's a good
Now,
thing.
you're talking to a professional talker here, so I can recognize. Like recognizes like. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and continued success. You guys enjoy the Super Bowl. Did you tell me who's going to win? Who's going to win?
No, I have no idea.
You're not going to say?
Do you know who's going to win?
Smart girl. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Reggie.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Reggie.